Hello, everybody, and welcome to this midweek special episode here on Trade the Chain. Joined by my co-host Ryan Gorman and our two incredibly great and YouTube famous crypto analysts from MarketRebellion.com, CJ and Monty. Thanks for joining us, guys. Really wanted to take a moment and kind of analyze where we are here in the markets. Right now, we shot up past 19,000 on the Bitcoin level, and it doesn't seem to be pulling back right now. It seems to be pretty steady, but who knows? That's why we have CJ and Monty. So, guys, what are we seeing on the big boards right now with Bitcoin, Ethereum? By the way, Ethereum over 600 is that's
remarkable
stuff.
Yeah, so let's check out the big boards then. Starting with Bitcoin. So quite a move. We're seeing things come alive in the market that we haven't seen since like 2017, 2018. We have XRP that was up double digits, almost 30 or 40%. Same thing with Stellar, same thing with Dash. We have a ton of these mid cap and high cap alts that are seeing price action. It's like you poked a bear and it just woke up out of slumber. But what we have on Bitcoin here is the Hyperwave model. So Tyler Jenks used the Hyperwave to call Bitcoin at 18,000 last cycle. And he used it very accurately to call the silver bubble in the 80s as well as the Hyperwave in the gold cycle in the 70s. And when you apply it to Bitcoin's recent run-up, you see that we're kind of at a phase 3 of the ultimate phase 4. And so if we continue on this parabolic model that Bitcoin is currently on, it points us at a target of roughly 23K or 22K, at which point we'll probably see that one of those 25 to 30% pullbacks, like what we saw in the 2016, 2017 run-up. You know, we have to keep in mind that during that bull market, we had over 4 to 5 periods where we pulled back from about 20 to 30%. So when you look at the Hyperwave here on the daily chart, and then you combine it with a little bit of the sequential theory that we've been looking at, earlier last week, we were talking about how these green nines had been catalysts for bullish price action. And you can see that that's precisely what we saw following that candle as we shot up back above 19,000. And we're kind of facing something similar on the weekly chart, being only on an 8, but tomorrow we're coming up and going to be making the first day of that new 9 candle on the weekly chart, which has been somewhat of a catalyst for bullish price action, like we said. So combining the sequential indicator with the Hyperwave model, and we're seeing a likelihood that we could break all-time highs and test these upper levels before a potential retrace. So that's where we're at, in my view.
A number of hedge fund managers and other markets analysts are saying that we're still in early days of this rally because the retail FOMO trade really has yet to kick in. And evidence shows that it's only retail traders have only become engaged in the past week or so, and they have yet to reach the mania, the ICO mania, I guess, that we experienced in 2017 in terms of retail money pouring in from Main Street. When you combine that with announcements like Scaramucci intending to invest in Bitcoin and a number of other prominent managers, Reichel, Stanley Druckenmiller, Altucher Jones, the list goes on, talking about how their funds are going to allocate or they want to learn more about trying to allocate to Bitcoin. I mean, there's a school of thought that Bitcoin could go much higher, possibly test the 30,000 range before the end of the year. Do you think this correction would come instead of a move that high, or do you think it would come before that and then ultimately we'd go higher?
Yeah, I think it's tough to pinpoint exactly when that's going to happen, just because, like CJ mentioned, we're kind of in no man's land here, and the technicals are starting to feel like they're a bit useless unless you mix them in with like more macro models. And it's really hard to gauge retail sentiment. We have tools to do it like Google Trends analysis. But one thing I like to look at in particular is, like you mentioned, Ryan, the ICO bubble of 2017, or the ICO bubble of 2017. I look at the altcoin projects as a reflection of retail interest in the space. And it was interesting because, I mean, we had 2 days of a bit of a drawback for Bitcoin, and we saw a ton of that capital flow into the altcoin space. So that's something we've been kind of waiting for during this bull run. Like we talked about a lot, it was largely institutional driven. So like when this whole bull run was happening, a lot of these altcoins remained stagnant because these were large players that were just putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But I think once that retail interest gets there, and I think we kind of saw a glimpse of it a little bit in the past 2 days when Bitcoin kind of slowed down, I think that's when that big boom is going to happen. And with retail booms, they tend to be more fickle. So I think the retail boom will happen, and then we'll sort of start to see this major correction because people will take profits and sell, whereas institutions are more likely to just hold.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is CJ, today, you know, with what's happening, you're using the Hyperwave model. Why did you decide to go with that, you know, particular reference?
Well, it's difficult to apply traditional methods such as, I mean, sequential is still very helpful, but when you're talking about things like RSI or like resistance levels overhead, Bitcoin is in all new terms of price discovery. It's never been above 9,600 or 20K. And so when we break into those new levels, we need new forms of evaluation to be able to pick a potential target to sell. And judging by how Tyler Jenks did this in the past, like I said previously, he called the top he sold at 18K in 2017. And I haven't found any other method that has been that accurate yet. And so, yeah, Hyperwave is what we're looking at for this.
Mashing the sell button on my Coinbase app is what got me to sell it at 18K in 2017, in between the timeouts.
Interesting enough, yesterday Coinbase once again went down with the volatility that was going on. I'm not fully understanding of it, you know, but big operation. I'm sure there's a lot of things to keep eyes on. But you know, I believe they have their own like stat board now amongst certain circles of how many times it's gone down. With regards to, and a lot of people have been asking this from the retail side, individual investors, with PayPal and Cash App and all those guys basically purchasing all the new Bitcoin that's coming out into the market from the miners, more or less. Does that have any correlation to what's happening with the price action? You know, a lot of the retail guys are like, oh, you know, this is happening because we just learned that PayPal bought all the Bitcoins that got mined. What's the truth behind that?
I think there may be some truth to that. It's kind of interesting to note because I think although PayPal is strictly buying Bitcoin, I think it's going to be a great on-ramp for retail investors to just get interested in crypto. I mean, you talk about how hugely important PayPal is as a financial institution. So them allowing their customers to buy Bitcoin, which will then flow into altcoins, I think is hugely important for this retail cycle. And I think it will be most reflected in the prices of altcoins because, like I mentioned earlier, I think that's the best gauge for retail sentiment. So I'm looking to see, I'm expecting that this onboarding of crypto users on PayPal is going to be very healthy for the overall market, but in particular for the altcoin market.
Yeah, I mean, as the best hair in crypto put it, it's altcoin autumn right now. We're all excited to see prices rising. Before we jump into that, though, we've been having some questions on Ethereum. Ethereum has blown past a couple different levels over the last 2 weeks. But what do we? Wow! Look at that chart.
Wow.
What are we expecting from Ethereum? We're right at 600 thereabouts right now. Do we have is there a short-term price target or momentum up or down basis with you guys?
Well, this is a unique case, right? Because we always talk about how Ethereum is kind of the gateway between Bitcoin and all the altcoin projects. So if that hypothetical retail interest does come into the altcoin space, I think the first asset to reflect that will be Ethereum. Now, that being said, that does kind of expose it to what I was talking about earlier. and the sort of fickle nature of retail traders. So I think we'll see more volatility in Ethereum than we are going to see in Bitcoin going forward, just in terms of percentage, obviously. But I think it's going to be, I think this will be like kind of the smoke signal for the altcoins. So if Ethereum starts to dip, I think lots of altcoins will also start to dip. Or on the contrary, we could see lots of the capital from Ethereum flow out of its own market cap and into some of these altcoins. But either way, it's in a weird spot right now because we just saw that 2 days of massive altcoin price action, and now we're seeing a bunch of Bitcoin price action. So if the money continues to flow into Bitcoin, we might see ETH kind of stagger a little bit, maybe go back down and retest support at 600. As you can see, we're approaching a green 9 on sequential here. So like CJ always says, that's indicative of some volatility. So, I mean, if it does continue, which is looking kind of likely, I think it very well could test that 660 level in the next day. But then once that's broken, I expect to start to see some of that classic retail volatility.
Do you think because ETH tends to be more retail driven than Bitcoin, at least at this stage, that it could be a canary in the coal mine of sorts for Bitcoin as well? Because if people start pouring out of ETH to lock in profits, and Bitcoin has still gone up a bit, there's a lot of people who bought Bitcoin earlier this year who could lock in quite a bit of profit, and that might be a foretelling of what they plan to do elsewhere in the markets. No?
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's all about how capital moves around in the space. It's kind of funny. I just want to briefly go on this tangent from our friend Steve here, what he tweeted. And essentially he was saying, you know, Bitcoin's almost at 20K today. How can VGX be flat or down? And essentially what I kind of said to that, and it kind of goes along with what we're saying, is like historically, the way that the capital goes into the space is that first it'll hit Bitcoin, then it'll go to like the very large high cap alts like Ether, like you mentioned. And then we see it filter into a little bit more of the mid caps, the exotics, the Polkadots, the Links. Then finally, we get to the very mini micro caps like VGX. But it takes that retail money to come in first and hit all of those avenues. And until they get hit and until the retail money comes in, I don't think the small caps like VGX are going to move too much. But in the meantime, you know, ETH is still looking bullish.
All right, now here's we definitely have to bring up this one, XRP. The XRP army has been waiting patiently by the sidelines for 3 years for this moment. Okay, I mean, this has to be XRP for a non-stable token has to be the most sideways trading coin I've ever seen out of the whole group. You know, it favors that 25 to 35 cent range, but it has blown past 50 cents. What are we up to right now, price wise?
71 cents.
71 cents. This,
yeah, but
I mean, this is, I didn't think I'd see this in my lifetime, but what is the rationale behind XRP being such an outlier of, you know, other top 10, top 20 coins right now?
Yeah, this has been very interesting to watch. And it's funny because I was talking on our Market Rebellion webinar with CJ, and I wasn't necessarily making fun of the XRP army, but I was just saying that, like, although the utility, like the longest time, like you said, Alex, it was trading sideways because the utility wasn't changing. Like, and also the utility wasn't great. They're kind of using it as a settlement token in a lot of ways. And it's not ideal for that. So I think what this is indicative of, this massive run up, is that speculation is finally entering back into the equation with coins like XRP. And I mean, in the last couple of years, we saw lots of other alts perform well because they were adding utility and rolling out developments. XRP kind of didn't do that. It was mostly just members of that XRP army holding on to the coin, being capitalist optimists, and now it's paying off for them because the retail money is flowing in and people are speculating on the coin. So for me, it's just a matter of some life being breathed back into this in the form of speculation that's been lacking for the longest time.
CJ, can you pull up an XRP BTC pair chart?
Yeah, sure. Just give me one sec.
Or an overlay. I just want to compare. I want to compare the patterns. Let's say for the last 30 months between Bitcoin and XRP.
Yeah, makes sense.
Interesting.
We've done much.
Okay.
Huh.
Isn't that something?
Life
I mean,
imitating.
that's as sideways as it gets. If you're holding on through that entire period of just no action, you deserve this little boom. But
oh yeah,
that also kind of makes me think it's not going to last.
Well, I mean, that depends, right? Because a lot of this is based on increased interest due to the Spark airdrop that's upcoming now.
That's
and
true.
That's true. That's kind of supposed to challenge, or it is supposed to challenge ETH in the DeFi space. And once that was announced, I mean, looking at some of the data on Trade the Chain that our members have access to, relative tweet volume's up almost 400%. Look at this. I mean, and relative trading volume's up nearly 500%.
Oh wait, Ryan. Just while we're on the stream, go to Stellar, which has also had some upward.
Stellar is remarkable too. Look at that.
1,000% in relative trading volume and 865 in tweet volume. I mean, what's the story behind Stellar, guys?
Yeah, good question. Same thing behind Dash, same thing behind Ripple. I thought Monty answered that, very well. It's just it's an indication that retail money and speculation is coming back into the space, because when individuals have profits in Bitcoin, they decide to play with that money elsewhere, and they go to high cap alts, then the mid cap alts, and then finally the lower cap alts that are the most exotic and the most filled with risk.
And right now, I mean, to your guys' point, I mean, speculation is probably 90% of this game, because XLM and XRP are basically competitors vying in the same payment settlement space and whatnot. And nothing remarkable has happened with either or, right? I mean,
XRP.
What life-changing stuff has XRP or XLM done for us in 3 years?
I think XRP has that airdrop coming, and it has that hard fork that's going to debut soon. Whereas, XLM, I'm not sure what's gone on there, but I can at least see why enthusiasm over the XRP hard fork and challenger to ETH in the DeFi space would be compelling to some people. And some analysts are predicting XRP hits 25 or 30 bucks. If XRP hits 25 or 30 bucks, I'll see you guys live from my island in the Caribbean. I mean, I'm out.
If XRP,
that wasn't 589.
If XRP hits 30 bucks, it will be 4 times more value by dollar than there is printed money in the world.
Like, I mean, that's not.
I hope nobody tries to cash out at once.
It won't happen, but I mean, the enthusiasm there is warranted, at least because it's something new. It's development. I mean, I can see why there might be excitement. I mean, the Mets have been sideways for years, and everyone's excited over Steve Cohen buying the team. So I think it's similar. You have something new and shiny, potentially something good comes out.
Is that what Steve Cohen did? He bought the Mets instead of Bitcoin. That's going to be his big downfall.
I don't know that was the best decision, but to each their own. I'm not the one with $15 billion to waste.
What do we have with the DeFi movement? Because I've been seeing some of the steam leave certain DeFi coins, and I find that interesting. But the likes of Link can't seem to inflate its balloon enough to fly, and Sushi keeps bouncing back and forth between the kitchen and dining room table. Nobody's taking off here like say Ethereum is.
Yeah, I would say Link is pretty bullish though. It looks, as you can see below, we've kind of highlighted this accumulation channel that it looks as if it's breaking out of. So of course we had our top back here where the Winklevoss twins were showing Dave Portnoy how to buy Bitcoin and Chainlink.
Saw the
And
video and bought right then.
yeah.
I mean, he has admitted he was wrong about Bitcoin since then. He had his mea culpa online, which is unfortunate for him, but I guess it worked out for many of the rest of us.
This is one of my favorite charts, though, from Jesse Livermore. And what am I going on to now? But you can see here, like it's the beginning of this like widening mouth pattern that eventually goes parabolic. And Livermore used this to get rich in the 20s and then called the 29 drop. And the exact same thing is pretty much happening. I mean, maybe not the exact same, but very similar type of price action is occurring in Link right now. So.
And an important thing to note too is not just the price action, but the amount of volume it's been seeing has also been increasing over the past week, which for me is a very bullish indication for Link and for DeFi in general.
All right. What are we trying to, there's so much going on right now. What do you guys have pegged for breakouts over at Market Rebellion?
Yeah, well, we were actually talking about this a little bit yesterday because people have been asking, because, once a few of these coins pop, then everyone's like, oh, which one's going to pop next? So you start looking at the coins that have been somewhat stagnant throughout this. And I think for me, we're just looking at one of them. I think Link still has tremendous potential to the upside, as well as lots of other DeFi assets in the space. And I think that this kind of bull run that we're seeing at the end of this year and the mania that's going to flow into the space, I think a lot of that is going to be centered around DeFi. And yeah, here's another one that we talked about yesterday, CJ and I. Ocean hasn't really broken to the upside, but like I said, that's mainly because the attention, and CJ mentioned this several times, sort of the funnel of interest in the crypto space. It's sort of a trickle-down effect, and I think these ones will be the last to be affected by it. But I think in a lot of ways, DeFi does have the most utility in general, and it has more reason to be bullish about it than most other assets. So I think we're going to see huge moves for assets like Link, Yearn Finance, Ocean, and I think they'll be kind of similar to the pops we're seeing in the higher cap altcoins right now.
Given the momentum that's often behind these DeFi tokens versus the I guess the more fickle momentum behind, say, Bitcoin. A lot of times when Bitcoin rallies at the end of the year into the Thanksgiving holiday, like it has in the past, in Asia, a lot of people sell off their Bitcoin in advance, like the Golden Week holiday and Chinese New Year, because they give cash as gifts. Do you think that DeFi protocols will be subject to similar conditions, or do you think that they would stay relatively stable, whereas Bitcoin might fall victim to that just because it's more liquid?
The holidays are always an interesting bet. They really are. And one of the charts that I had up here previously was just kind of highlighting Bitcoin and how it had performed versus previous Thanksgivings. And as you can see, it's pretty mixed bag. But when we are in the midst of bull markets, typically we see a lot of bullish price action from Thanksgiving to Christmas. And so that has occurred in the altcoins as well. And so if Bitcoin rallies, I expect it to go first and be the leader. Then I believe it usually stagnates, or at least the bulls take profit. And then we see those altcoins follow suit. That kind of continual flow of capital into the space that we've been repeatedly talking about.
How long does the trickle-down effect take? Is there any prediction on your guys' mind from that initial Bitcoin inflow to hitting the VGXs of the crypto spectrum?
Yeah, what I look for is typically I look for stagnation in the price of Bitcoin. And that's not always, that hasn't been very common lately, but it's also not always indicative of more capital flowing into altcoins. But if you just look at the last 72 hours, Bitcoin had 2 red candles and the altcoins skyrocketed. But also, if you consider Bitcoin dominance, today, Bitcoin's the total market cap of Bitcoin, I think, went up like 3.5 or 4%. the total market cap of crypto, and Bitcoin dominance is down. So to me, that's indicative. That's largely indicative of the fact that money is flowing into the space, but not necessarily into Bitcoin. So whenever Bitcoin does start to pull back a little bit, which I don't think is happening yet, clearly, I think that's when the trickle down is going to start happening, and it'll happen fast.
And look, there's little CJ, Monty, Ryan, and Alex in the corner there. Guys, by the way, great platform. You want to go get some charts, want to go get some education, tips and tricks, head over to marketrebellion.com. First month is $1 over there, and you get to be instantly friends with CJ and Monty in the chat room. So check that out for sure. This is interesting. One of the I don't want to give away inside information, but I will say that one of the interesting things in the Market Rebellion control room there is the portfolio allocation. Of what you guys are piecing together. I won't say what the positions are because you got to be a member to get in there, but it's the diversification, I think, has a commonality through it, right? I think I don't know of anybody who doesn't have an overweight position in Bitcoin and then immediately drops and spreads across the spectrum. It's interesting. There's a lot of belief in Bitcoin. So
yeah, well, kind of the logic behind that. I mean, we went back, we collected all the data, and we just tried different allocations over and over, and it's just shocking how well Bitcoin performs over the long term when you compare it to a lot of these other assets. So yeah, it's always going to be a large part in any macro portfolio, but you can try to outperform it by kind of, like you said, diversifying with other projects, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And fine print, none of this is investment advice. We probably don't even know half of what we're doing on the show. We're just here to entertain you. Guys, this is great. I got charts on both sides. I'm looking at so much data that is so inflated over the last week of where it was the prior week. And I hope everybody's making a ton of money. We're going to follow up Friday and see where we are from here. So everybody, thanks for pulling together midweek, midday, and we'll see you guys Friday.
See you then.